Many home sellers look back with regret and wish they had done things differently. Today, I'm going to share the 7 most common regrets that home sellers have and how to avoid them. When it's time to sell your home, there are no second chances, there are no mulligans. Nope, you only have one chance, so you want to make sure you get it right. With all that being said, let's jump into regret number 1, which is pricing too high or pricing too low. Let's first talk about pricing too high. Now, currently in the market that we have a market now that's starting to transition a little bit. It's going from what's been a pandemic, red hot seller's market throughout most of the country to a market now where it's starting to get balanced out. Some parts of the country, you'll see that it's actually a buyer's market where you've got a lot of inventory and very little demand. Other areas like kind of the DMV market here in DC, we've still got a seller's market, but it's definitely softening. Inventory starting to rise, demand starting to soften a little bit. But whatever the case, pricing too high can definitely hurt because pricing matters. The other thing that really matters is days on market. I can tell you this, besides just working with home sellers, I work with home buyers. And when you're taking home buyers out and they start to see a property that's been on the market 2 weeks, 30 days, 60 days, 160 days, believe me, they start forming opinions. Some buyers get scared of this. They start to think things like, what does everybody else in town know about this house that I don't? And so oftentimes the days on market will scare them away. Other buyers, that's a major turn on to them because they think that you're desperate. They think that they're going to take advantage of you because, you know what? Nobody else in town wants you. With all that being said, it's not like every home needs to sell within a day or two. I'm not saying that for a moment. However, you have to understand the fact that in the mind of the buyers, they start forming opinions the longer the home stays on the market. Now let's talk about the flip side of pricing too low. Now, I've definitely seen a lot of agents, a lot of sellers over the last few years, especially since the pandemic, strategically try to price the property low, maybe 5 or 10% lower than they actually are really expecting to get, with the idea that they draw so much interest that the value, you get people fighting for it, and the value just goes up, up, and up. That can be a little risky because guess what? That doesn't always happen, especially now when we're starting to see the market transition and getting softer throughout most parts of the country. You price it too low, and with the idea that, people are going to come in and be fighting over it, and that does not happen. And then you ultimately get a contract that is for the list price. It's not a price that you were planning to take, and you do not take that. You may have some liability with a buyer coming in, writing you a contract. They're well qualified. They're giving you what you asked for, and yet you're still not willing to take it. You may have a little bit of liability there. The second regret I see from a lot of home sellers out there is not properly preparing their home for the market. I've talked to many people over the years who've sold their homes who said, I wish that I would have maybe gotten better direction. I wish that maybe I would have listened a little bit better and properly prepared the home for sale. Meaning things like decluttering, painting, staging, all those things, once again, really will help, especially in this digital age when buyers are finding your home online. They're going to, first of all, react to the property online, either positively or negatively. And if it's positive, it most likely is going to result in a showing. If it's not positive, it's going to be swipe left and move on to the next property. The goal here is to create such an awesome online experience that you excite and create enough demand for multiple amount of buyers to want to come out and see your home in person. If your in-person experience matches the online experience, chances are you're going to have some success. Once again, the idea is really to get 4 or 5 people who feel the same way and are that excited about your home to bid the property up. That's what's going to raise the value up, create a ton of demand, and you will never have any regrets about having gotten your house prepared properly for putting it on the market. The third regret I see is rejecting the first good offer. Now, it's very cliche to hear in the real estate business that your first offer is your best offer. Now, I will say that with 35 years experience, that can be true, but it's not always true. And I think a lot has to do with the status of the market. Where is the market? Is this a market where it's heavily favoring sellers like we had maybe for 4 or 5 years during the pandemic years where you've got really low inventory and high demand? Or is it a market that's more balanced where it's an equal balance between buyers and sellers? Or is it one that's favoring the buyers? This can have a lot to do as to whether or not that first offer will be your best offer. In a seller's market where you may have a ratio of 5 buyers for every 1 property, taking your first offer oftentimes could be meaning that you leave some money on the table. And it may be better to kind of let your property stay out for the weekend, have multiple buyers come through, and hopefully with the idea of getting multiple contracts and bidding taking place. So this is what I would tell you when it comes to whether or not your first offer is going to be your best offer. Understand the type of market that you're in. Also, evaluate the type of showings you're getting. You know, if you have had the home on the market for 2 days and you've had 7 or 8 showings and you've got 8 or 10 other showings lined up going into the weekend, maybe it's better to go ahead and wait through the end of the weekend, see what else you get. However, if it's been on the market 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, and you're getting your first offer in, chances are this will be your best offer. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to take the offer the way it's written. However, you know, if you were to make a counter offer, you want to make sure that you're not doing something that's too aggressive that's going to scare people away. Because as I said before, days on market matter. Fourth regret that I see a lot is home sellers not understanding all the costs involved with selling their home and moving expenses. Now, if that's you, I would have to say I'm going to put that one mainly on the agent that was hired, because it's really the agent's job to kind of prepare you and shepherd you through the transaction to be able to go through all the various costs involved with selling. We're not just talking about commission amount, but all the other fees involved with selling your home, as well as moving expenses, so that you're prepared for reality. Really, the most important number is not the sales price, not the commission amount, not all the other fees. It's what are you getting when it's all said and done? What is the amount that you're walking away with? Knowing these costs, knowing these expenses, and knowing what your net proceeds are going to be at the end, as well as what the costs are going to be for moving, are paramount. So you want to make sure if your agent doesn't bring this up, you're probably not dealing with the right agent. Now, with all this being said, it leads to my fifth seller regret, which is choosing the wrong agent. Unfortunately, choosing the wrong agent is pretty easy to do. As I said, I think that 80% of the real estate agents out there throughout the country pretty much suck. You know, unless you have a personal relationship with a realtor who you know is a top agent in your area, somebody that maybe you've worked with before, or somebody who's been referred to you, has strong reviews online, unless you know all these things, the chances are 80% you're going to get a dud. These are some of the things you can expect when you hire a dud. First of all, expect poor communication, weak marketing strategy, and probably a weaker negotiating strategy. Once again, you only get one time to do this, guys, so you want to make sure you do it right from the beginning, and a great agent is the best way to start. I've said many times over the years that a great agent for your property can be like a magnet that draws other agents and buyers to your property, where a bad agent can be like a freaking scarecrow that scares people away. I would always say it's best to interview 3 agents. Some of the things you're going to want to check for is their online reviews on places like Zillow or Google. If they've got no reviews or just a few reviews, or worse yet, bad reviews, you want to stay away from them. What you're looking for is somebody that's got a lot of reviews on Zillow as well as on Google. Read these reviews, hear what people say. I think one of the other things that you want to know, and this is an important one, you're going to want to ask the agent and maybe do your research online. How many sellers do you work with a year and how many buyers? And what is the ratio? Because I will tell you that most really strong agents actually work with more sellers than they do buyers. Typically, newer agents, part-time agents work more with buyers and less with sellers. Maybe they've had 20 or 30 sales for the last year, which is a good number. But if you find out that 80 or 90% of those were with buyers and not with sellers, that right there is kind of a red flag. So you're going to want an agent who is at least 50-50 between buyers and sellers. Hopefully you find an agent who's actually working with more sellers than buyers. While we're talking about this, you know, I work in the DC, Maryland area. However, if you're outside of this area and you'd like a referral to a great agent, the good news is I've got a vast network of some of the top agents throughout the country. I'd be happy to help you find a great agent and vet them out for you. So if you're interested in that, you want to go ahead and either scan the QR code that's on the screen right now. It'll take you to a little form, fill it out. I'll get back in touch with you. We'll talk for 5 minutes. Don't worry, I'm not going to stalk you or anything like that. And see what you're looking for and get you placed with a great agent in your area. The other option is you can click the link in the description below, once again, for an agent referral. The sixth regret that I see a lot of sellers have is feeling like they've been rushed or pushed. Oftentimes what I get asked by a lot of home sellers is, when's the best time to sell? While that's important because is in most markets, there is seasonality. In the DC area, what we find is that the spring market is usually the best market. And that spring market really starts in about January and goes through about mid-June. So that first 6 months, the first 2 quarters of the year tend to be our spring market. Things typically soften some as we get to the third and fourth quarter. However, what I always say is, while those things are important, timing's important. What's more important is to make sure that you're ready emotionally, financially, you have a plan, you know where you're going, and the house is ready to go. So, if given the choice of rushing the property on, rushing yourself, kind of half-assed just to make that great time of year, like let's say the March, April market, versus, taking more time and doing it right and putting it on the market more July, August, September, you know what? It's better to make sure that you're going on, not rush, that you're ready emotionally, you're ready financially, you got your plan in place, and your house is ready to go. Ultimately, that's going to be better for you. The seventh regret that I see oftentimes is home sellers wishing they had bought their next home first before selling. I'm going to kind of take you through a whole cycle here and really some of the choices that a home seller has when they're selling and they're looking to purchase the next home. And really, there's three options that you have. And that is either you sell your home first, get the cash out of there, pay off any mortgage and everything. So now you got cash and you're ready to buy the next home. Now, the plus side is you know exactly how much you're getting from the sale of your property, okay? You were not rushed. You were not pushed to sell your home. However, you might feel the pressure now going out and purchasing a property. Okay, I got my money, but you know what? Maybe I can't find another property. While inventory is rising throughout the country, still in most areas, it's still relatively low. So there's no guarantee you're going to find what you're looking for immediately. And once again, you certainly don't want to feel pressed to buy a home that you really don't love. Second option potentially would be to purchase the new home first. And now, when I say purchase the new home, I'm talking non-contingent. That's purchasing the new home before you sell the old home. And this may not be possible for everybody out there. Some people need to have the home paid off. They need to have their mortgage paid off. They need their cash released or their equity released to purchase the new property. If that's not even a possibility, then that's not an option for some home sellers who are going to be home buyers. Some buyers out there, or sellers, I should say, do have the ability to go out and buy the new home first and then come back and sell the other one. On this, the pressure is exactly the opposite, okay? So if you own a home currently, you're out looking to purchase a new one, non-contingent of selling the existing home, there's no pressure for you as a buyer. Nobody's pressuring you to purchase the new home. You're not getting pressed to move out of your house. I would always say, if you can, tackle the hardest transaction first. Now, your third option, which oftentimes many home sellers who are going to be buyers gravitate towards, but I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of, and oftentimes I find that depending upon the market, it's not even possible, is purchasing the new property contingent upon selling your current home. I mean, it seems to make sense. It's like, you know what? I'm going to go out, purchase this property, make it contingent upon the sale of this other property. If I don't sell my property, well, then I'm not obligated to buy the next property. So the problem with this is in a strong market where there's low inventory and high demand, this is not even going to be a possibility. There's not going to be a seller out there who's going to take their property off the market and wait for you to sell your property. It just simply won't happen. However, in a market that's softer, where you've got high supply, low demand, this might be a possibility, but here's what I find. You end up having very little bargaining power, any negotiating power on either side. If you put that contract on there that's contingent, unless you sell your house, they haven't sold their house. This is definitely not going to be their plan A. This is probably going to be their plan B or C. Even if they accept it, they don't accept it and give you 6 months to sell your home. Typically, what I see is they might give you 2 weeks or 30 days. Guess what you're going to need to do in order to sell it quickly? You're going to need to price it low and probably accept an offer that's lower than you really need to. What I find is a lot of money is left on the table on both transactions. You pay too much for the new home and you sell your current home for too little. So I don't like this idea at all. I'm not saying it's impossible. However, it's not one that I would highly suggest. So what are your thoughts? Do you have any regrets from selling another home? And if so, tell me a little bit about it. Do you have any other ideas about other regrets that maybe I didn't bring up? I'd love to hear that also, so feel free to place a comment. Thanks once again for checking out the latest video, and I will see you next week.